Hi everyone, it's Miss Terry, and I'm going to talk today about my nonfiction picks for students in grades 7th and 8th for the month of February. This first one I'm going to talk about is called A Face for Picasso, and this is a story about two sisters, Ariel and Zan, who were born with a syndrome called Krausen syndrome, which means that their skull fused prematurely and their skull doesn't have enough room for their growing organs, and so they undergo quite a lengthy amount of surgeries that rearrange their face, adjust their bones and the structure, so it feels like every time they look in the mirror they don't really even recognize themselves. And then as they get a little bit older, they end up meeting with some plastic surgeons who are trying to rearrange things so that they're pretty. And this is a story specifically about Ariel and what that has meant for her growing up, and the difficulties that she's faced with, not only just with bullies, but also just trying to be herself. She ends up deciding to join the high school cheerleading squad, and it just really talks about how she comes to terms with all the things that she's had to deal with in her life and really recognize what true beauty really means. So it's called A Face for Picasso. If you like books like Wonder, I think you'd really enjoy this. Katie, Up and Down the Hall, is a story about a Cocker Spaniel that ends up getting adopted by several people who live on the same floor in a Manhattan high-rise, and she kind of rules the hallway between their apartments, and this book talks about what Katie brings to that relationship, but also the different stories about the people who live in the apartments. If you like animal stories, it's definitely a good choice for you. Robbers is good for true crime fans. This one looks at true stories of the world's most notorious thieves, including a thief who was able to walk out with the Mona Lisa right out of the Louvre. It also talks about a man who jumped out of an airplane with a lot of money and was never found. I've actually brought a book about him before, and other great thieves that have taken things. So it's called Robbers. Abominable Science is the origins of the Yeti, Nessie, and other famous cryptoids. So if you're interested in Godzilla or Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster, and you're kind of like, okay, why do people even think those things exist? This book is going to tell you all about it. The Impossible Climb is about a young man named Alex Arnold who on June 13th, 2017 became the first man to free climb the El Capitan in Yosemite, which is a 3,000-foot drop, and he did this without any harnesses or ropes. And this is also the story of the man who cracked the story and shared it with the world. If you like sports stories, you'll probably really enjoy that. This one is a historical history book. It's called Crazy Horse and Custer, Born Enemies, and this book looks at the two generals and the events that led up to the Battle of Little Bighorn, which is what the Americans call it, or the Battle of the Greasy Grass, which is what Custer, Chief Crazy Horse, Lakota tribe would have called it. And it kind of looks at how just the different times in their lives that really led to this battle between these two very famous chiefs. So it's called Crazy Horse and Custer. This next one is a new look at depression, and it has insights and tips for teenagers, and it talks about some of the signs of depression. It talks about how we look at the world through various events that happen, whether it's through stress or things that have happened to us, or just our self-image and things like that. And it gives you some tips and ideas on how to work through that depression, and also where you can find help if you are having those thoughts and things like that. So it's called Depression, Insights and Tips for Teenagers. And then the last one I'm going to share with you is a graphic novel nonfiction. I'll show you the inside. And this one is called Survivors of the Holocaust, and these are true stories of 6 extraordinary children. So the 6 different stories kind of follow the lives of these children and what happened to them during World War II and the Holocaust. Okay. Hope you find something to read.